It's episode 125. The Switch 2 was announced. Yeah, it's Nintendo news, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sony canceled 2 live service games. Yay! Woo! Yeah, woohoo! Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor, and my co-host Sam just got up from his desk. Now he's back. You're listening to No Limits, a PlayStation podcast, episode 125. Remember, you can listen to the video version of this podcast over on YouTube.com. And watch the video version over on YouTube.com/SaveTheGameMedia every Tuesday. And while you are over there, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you'd rather listen to audio, we are on all your favorite podcast services. We would love it if you could leave us a review. It helps us grow. We would love any feedback. If you want to support us and get early access to all Save the Game Media content, head over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia and choose the tier that's right for you. Just like our current patrons did: Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Nikolai Knight, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, David Hotwright, Dave Hart, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Lee Navarro, Sil Canet, Ellery Woods Parker III, Chad, and Rick Davis. Also, interact with us in the Discord. Links are in the show notes. Sam, I cannot speak English today. I'm talking a little fast. Not that fast, a little fast, maybe a little fast. How about bad about a swing, swing. Oh, 500, 500, 600, hammer in 600. All right.
Sold
to the man in the gray hoodie. It's kind of non-specific.
It's also more of a cream color in real life.
Oh, okay.
Just it's a bit washed out on the camera there.
Toph, would you get out of my face? Oh my god. Okay, Toph, very funny. She just likes slamming herself under my desk on top of my knees, and it's a confined space, and she doesn't mind, I guess.
Yeah, it happens.
Whoopsie, sorry, Toph. Okay. She's okay. She's struggling.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Rather tired, which isn't a good sign considering I've not hit the February mother load of work.
The mommy load.
The mummy load.
Okay, you heard it here first.
Yeah, so I feel like I should be feeling well rested at this point in preparation for the onslaught to come, and I'm not. So who knows what state I'll be in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, other than that, I'm doing pretty all right. Just keeping the train going, choo choo. It's going steadily along the tracks.
Sam, have you played Derail Valley?
Taylor, stop making things up. I've never heard of this.
Do you want to guess what kind of game that is?
Let me guess. It is an FPS Metroidvania set in the Care Bears universe.
The only FPS Metroidvania that has ever existed is Metroid Prime.
I'm not sure that's a completely correct statement.
Yes, it is. Name another first-person shooter Metroidvania.
Well, I don't know, but there is undoubtedly something out there.
Mm-mm.
Okay, Tyler. Okay, whatever you say.
I wonder if you could... Do you think Bionicle Heroes could be? Do you remember that game, Sam?
Yes, I do.
It's only 20 years old.
Only. I'm not entirely sure it qualifies, but just not far off, maybe. I'll be generous so that your point is invalid, saying that Metroid is the only one.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a train sim, Sam.
Who would have guessed?
Speaking of sims, American Truck Simulator is on sale. Oh,
God's
It's I'm close to doing a little purchase action.
God damn it, Taylor.
What?
You've driven right off the deep end.
Have I? Have I though?
You're in it for the long haul.
Pun intended.
Yes.
Anyway, what have you been playing, Sam? Besides Derail Valley, which you were playing, of course.
Of course. What have I been playing? Christ. Let's think.
Words.
I have been playing some more of Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Still loving it. It's getting weirder and weirder. The metal levels are getting a little bit too numerous to count, but I feel like I'm holding on to my sanity for the time being. What else? Oh, I took the plunge and bit the bullet to pick up Behemoth, which is the VR game made by Skydance.
Interesting.
Partially
Skydance Film Festival. That's Sundance.
Yes.
Okay.
You're close enough. Close enough. I think it was the studio. It gets murky because I know that Skydance is doing the Marvel 1943 game, which Amy Hennig is heading. But I don't know if this is the same team, but like a different team within the studio, or it's technically just a different studio but named the same thing and Skydance is the umbrella. I'm not sure how that works, but still, it's essentially what's the best way to describe Behemoth? It is a physics-based first-person hack and slash.
Nice.
With Shadow of the Colossus.
I see the cover art is literally a huge kaiju stomping on you.
Yeah. So you can like grapple. You can fire like a grappling hook to latch onto the leg of a behemoth. And
wait, but you said this is PSVR? No.
Yeah.
PSVR 2.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. It's also on Steam in a non-VR version.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I think it is.
I thought it was exclusively a VR experience.
Let me see.
I haven't heard of a flat screen.
Can you play Behemoth without VR? Oh wait, no, you're right. Well, that's what Google AI says. I don't trust Google AI.
Yeah, there's your problem. Why are you listening to Google AI, Taylor?
Because it's a stupid first result that I shouldn't be looking at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like it is a VR only game, but it's on PC. Okay.
Yeah, it's very good. I haven't gotten too far into it because of how busy I've been over the past year. I haven't been able to play as much VR as I usually do, so I kind of have realized I'm needing to build up my VR legs a little bit more. Not that I get motion sick, because I never have, but I feel like I need to take breaks more frequently than I used to.
Right.
So I'm trying to sort of build up that resilience again so that I can actually do proper sessions, particularly with a game like that, which is really high quality, really fun. And the only other thing I've been playing, walk with me on a slight story time, Taylor. It's not super long, so don't.
Let's take a walk.
Let's take a walk. I was chatting in it might have been the No Limit specific Discord, but just the Save Game Media Discord in general, which you can join, please do.
Join. I'll give you money.
And there was some line of conversation about sort of indie games. And I was talking to, I think, Todd Oxtra about playing What Remains of Edith Finch.
I also have that on my free Epic game list.
please, for the love of God, if you haven't played it, it's like 2 hours long maximum.
Can't be that good.
Yes, it is, Taylor. Yes,
Slash sarcasm, Sam. I'm sure it's great.
One of the best narrative experiences I've ever had.
Oh, come on.
Incredibly compelling, constantly inventive, deeply moving. It is very, very, very good. Trust me. You guys didn't believe me with Astro's Playroom, you know, and look where you are now.
I think I believed you with Astro's Playroom.
But it took you a hell of a long time to play it, though. Same with Brie.
Well, that's
now
so
you're converts.
Me acknowledging a game is probably excellent is very different from me not playing it for a very long time. Or I should say, both of those things can be true because I'm Taylor.
But you don't know, is Astrobot actually good?
Oh, I'm sure it's good.
Oh, but you don't know, do you? You don't know. But I do. So we're talking about What Remains of Edith Finch, and then the conversation unraveled in a couple of different directions, and we were just talking about really compelling indie games in general, and like experiential games. And people, I think it was Silkanet brought up Journey, and I was saying that I'm like super looking forward to Sword of the Sea, which is Giant Squid's next game, which are a lot of the people that made Journey, which is coming to PlayStation. I think it's a console exclusive. Not that matters, but it was debuted at a PlayStation showcase.
Right.
I was saying I was hyped for that, and thinking about that, about Journey and about Sword of the Sea, and obviously I played Pathless the other year or two ago, which I loved. I felt the itch for a game like that, and I didn't know where to turn, Taylor. But for some reason, fate, luck, whatever it was on my side, because there is a nice discount sale going on the PlayStation Store right now, across a variety of titles. And I thought I'll just have a browse. Wasn't filtering by genre, by nothing. I was just having a look. And I saw a game, very cheap, called Wavetale. It is a small indie game, kind of janky, but got like a cute art style. But the gimmick of the game is that you are essentially exploring the world by surfing and gliding along the waves of the ocean. And it's telling a very nice, quaint little narrative, and you're meeting lots of characters, and there's a bit of combat going on, light puzzle solving, exploration, all of that stuff, all the good stuff. But there was something about, I watched like the trailer and then I was like, oh, I'm sold, where I think it is the Sword of the Sea and Journey vibe nailed, but on an indie level. So I played the whole way through that, and I platinumed that, and it's a real hidden gem, I think.
Sorry, what's the name again?
Wavetale. Wave as in ocean wave.
Ooh. There's also Sailing Simulator.
No, Taylor.
Wavetale is $6 on Steam at the moment.
Yeah. On the PlayStation Store, it's almost certainly cheaper than that, because I picked it up for like nothing, essentially.
Well, right now it's not on sale, but when it goes on sale, it is $3.
Well, there you go. So yeah, the window must have closed for it during the sale, but regardless, I go in expecting a bit of a janky experience. Like, it is very, very indie, but the traversal that they've got is still really good. Looks and feels really good. So that's a hearty recommend from me, and I'm very glad that I just sort of happened to stumble upon it. And that's all I've been playing, I think. What about you? Which simulator do I talk about first?
I did play a little bit of Euro Truck Sim earlier this week. Sam, I picked up a 15,000 euro job. How could I have not taken it?
Well, yeah, you'd be stupid.
From Sheffield to Was it Copenhagen? It was somewhere in Denmark. I had to take the ferry.
Okay, yeah,
Ferry is €1,000. Still a 14K net euro trip, which is
pretty
like
good.
double what trips I usually get in that game.
Yeah,
which is great. So I just started that job when I logged off last time.
cool.
Saving up for a Scania. Those
The
look like
best.
those look like the best Euro trucks, I have to say.
Yeah.
I will say I'm a little disappointed that European highways are limited to 55 miles an hour, 90 kilometers an hour. It's a little slow, isn't it?
For a speed demon like yourself, maybe, yes.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sheffield's an interesting place. The iron back of the UK, steel and manufacturing. Sheffield.
Yeah, don't know that I've ever heard it called that, but
You've been to Sheffield, though.
sure.
Right. Well, I did one session of that, and then I was watching a lot of Flight Sim. I was watching it on Twitch. I have a problem of watching games and not playing them sometimes.
Right.
So also probably some avoidance of personal responsibility, trying to learn how to fly better. And yeah, I got back into Flight Sim still. I am started taking routes around Milwaukee, Wisconsin in that game. Flight Sim 2020 I'm still playing, not 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting until it gets ironed out in many ways. Yeah, the plan, Sam, is to learn the basics of flight in my small little plane, and then go with an intermediate plane. That's a bit faster, I think, and then jump directly to an airliner after that. I want to fly the Airbuses and the Boeings and the BAEs and the MDs of the world.
I believe in you.
At least that's what I'm telling myself. Maybe I'll hate it, but yeah, I don't know. Microsoft Flight Sim has got me by the neck again. And see, the thing with airliners is there's a ton of procedure that you don't have with a small little plane. I'm talking like between your pre-flight planning and putting all your plan into your flight computer on an airline jet. Because at the beginning of flights in a commercial jet, there's a little computer adjacent to the stick or the yoke, where they have to punch in all their flight plan stuff, fuel, navigation checkpoints, departure, destination, etc.
Yes.
And that takes like probably at least 15 minutes. And then you have to wait to get cleared for taxi and then departure. And so, like, if you're flying an Airbus A320 with virtual ATC on, if you're at like a busy airport, from stepping foot in the cockpit to takeoff, it could be like 40 minutes. So I wonder how I will take to that time sink, especially as a guy who doesn't usually like playing games for more than a couple hours at a time. Might be a bottleneck that I might have to address. Maybe I don't like airliners. And then I stick with the smaller planes.
Maybe.
And I'm using my little joystick. For some reason, I'm getting some mild to right shoulder pain. I was getting it earlier in the week anyway, and I'm like, am I getting an repetitive strain injury right now? It's not very cash money. So I'm working on ergonomics with my desk. Try to fix that.
Okay.
What else? Other than that, this morning I played more Ghost. I have 2 outposts left in the top part of the map. I forget what the region is called. And then it's fully liberated after that. Like I said last week, the plan is liberate all the outposts and then go to the Iki Island.
You think you'll be done by the time Yote comes, you think?
Depends when Yote comes out, but yeah, I think I will. How many hours is Iki Island, though? 10?
It depends on how much you're planning on doing, my friend.
Maybe I'll.
If you just want to mainline it, then
you know
not
me.
that long. But
that's not me. I don't mainline. I do
Precisely.
side quests and the main story. I don't do all the collectibles, but I always do the side quests if there's a story involved.
Yeah, I mean, you're. I mean, it's been a number of years since I played Iki Island, but I would say if you're trying to do a fair amount of the stuff, you're probably going to be closer to 20.
Wow. I already have over 60 hours in the game.
Yeah.
No kidding, though. I love that world. And the region of the map I was in earlier today, I was wearing the white traveler's attire on Kage as I was going through the white snow landscape.
Mm.
And it was just so scenic. And I'm about to start reading The Hobbit soon. I don't know, Sam. I'm all for the... Maybe that is a common thread between Flight Sim, Ghost, and The Hobbit. Something about flying is it's grand, right? You're covering a lot of ground. There's a lot of stuff to look at. Ghost is pretty grand on your horse in this beautiful Japanese open world. Euro Truck, though, doesn't fit that bill, does it? Euro Truck is not that pretty unless you have a lot of mods.
Yeah. I feel those connections are a little bit stringent, but
Ghost is grand.
Sure, yeah.
Wow, Lord of the Rings is grand. I'm about to. The Hobbit is basically Lord of the Rings, Sam. Thank God Bree's not listening.
Yeah, I mean, is it though?
No, it's not. No, it's not. I got 4 books for $16, Sam.
Yeah,
good deal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Me and my little Cessna and Ghost, and I don't know, Sam. If I start playing Flight Sim as a regular thing, I don't know if I'll be playing more than an hour a week of PlayStation. Maybe I'm not the right guy for this podcast, Sam. Maybe you should fire me.
I don't have that kind of executive order, Taylor.
Of course you do.
That's just factually incorrect.
When is Kevin gonna found? When is Kevin going to found? That's the proper verb, right? Someone starts a company. They found it, or they founded it. They started, not found. Maybe Kevin should start a Save the Game Media LLC.
Maybe.
I'm sure that's what kind of fun he has by this point, right?
Oh yeah, that kind of thing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
For sure.
For sure. Sam, where should I fly next in Flight Sim?
Ow,
stop hurting me.
Where's Sony headquarters? Maybe you can have a word with them.
Ow. Are they somewhere in Japan, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess technically it depends on whether you're talking about Sony or PlayStation headquarters specifically, right?
Wait, PlayStation is in the not US. Headquartered. Wait, really?
Yeah.
Sony is headquartered in Tokyo. Wait, no, New York? Sony Corporation of America, located in New York, is the US headquarters. What about PlayStation headquarters?
PlayStation's in the US. I'm almost 100% certain.
There you go. Well, yeah, San Mateo.
Yep.
And so, are you asking for the PlayStation headquarters, Sam?
I guess so. Yeah. Sony seems a bit extreme. If PlayStation don't listen, go fly to Sony. That's you speak to the little boy first, and then if he doesn't listen, go speak to the father.
I can do that. That'll be a long haul flight. I might need I'll need the A380 for that one.
Do what you got to do, Tyler.
You know what the A380 is? I assume you do.
That'll be a plane.
All right, Sam, let's do a little screen share. All right.
I don't think we need to be honest.
Airbus A380. Yep.
I'm so excited. I'm going to do some research in my own time.
All right, Sam, just Google image Airbus A380. It's the biggest passenger plane that has been ever made.
It's a plane.
It's large.
That sure is a plane.
It's large, Sam. And that can take you from San Francisco to Japan.
Well, it'd take you because you're the one going to speak with them, right?
Could also fly a smaller plane, but what's the point of flying a smaller plane? Am I right? Burn
Well,
more fuel, kill more Earth.
whatever floats your boat.
My boat's floating. Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
Maybe I'll stop playing Flight Sim. Who knows?
You could do, yeah.
If I'm going to be a betting man, I'll probably follow Flight Sim within the next 3 weeks.
I'm not confident enough to take that bet, you know.
Really?
Yeah. I'd love that, Taylor. Not that I want to not that I want to take away you playing whatever you want, because of course you can play whatever you want. But I would love to see you get to some of these games so that we can talk about them. But that's fine.
I still need to
There's
record
no
Resistance
peer
with
pressure
you.
going on here. There's no peer pressure. You do what you want in the same way that we all do what each other wants.
Now I kind of just want to go and liberate all the outposts in Ghost.
You can do that. You have free will.
Sam, no, speaking of Ghost, let's talk about Ghost. Sam, what's your in Ghost? My approach to outposts is start stealthy. If there's a bonus objective, try to hit it. Otherwise, if I get enough, if my Ghost stance fills up, I'm going to activate the Ghost stance. Stealth be damned.
Interesting.
What about you? But I never start an outpost going guns blazing.
I mean, again, it's been a few years, but
No, it hasn't.
yes, it has.
Mm.
I would say I always try to do the optional objective, which I guess technically would require me more often than not to start in stealth, and then if there is some kind of leader or commander at the outpost, then I would try to track them down after completing the optional objective, brutalize them, and then that helps whittling out the rest of the outpost a little bit easier, because some people just straight up run away after that. Yeah, I'm one of the guys where, like, even though I know that things like Ghost Stance and all of my consumables and throwables, I know I can replenish them, but I almost always am like annoyingly conservative with those things, where I just won't ever deploy them. I'll just use basic stuff.
Even I play on lethal. I don't know about you, Sam. Do you play on lethal?
I did a second playthrough on lethal, which I think I probably did use more stuff freely, but even then I was like, well,
it's not that
hard. This encounter might be a bit tough, but I know realistically in the short term I'm going to hit a story beat or whatever that won't require me to have as many things as I can, even though I know I can go and buy more. I know that still my brain.
The thing is, it's in your interest to regularly use consumables, because the game will generate replenishments for your consumables accordingly when you go to loot the outpost that you're sieging.
I know this, Taylor. But my brain doesn't like it.
It's funny. I had an optional objective right before we started recording where it said use black powder bomb to damage 3 enemies. So I used it in a group, got 2 of the 3. And the last enemy in the outpost was just, running towards me. Just threw a black powder bomb at him. He just flew the other direction. And that was it. So sometimes the optional objectives are funny and loud.
Yeah.
One last thing I'll say about Ghost, that I want them to do in Yote, I would really, 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 really love hotkeys to change my armor set. There was a setting in the game that that's not on by default. I think it should be, where you can arrange charms in accordance with a certain armor set, and then when you change armor sets, it changes your charms accordingly. I don't like that you have to go into a menu to change that every time, because when I'm exploring, I like the Traveler's Attire because it exposes more of the map. per distance traveled on foot or on horse. And when I start when I'm in stealth, the ghost armor is preferred. And when I'm in open combat, either the Sakai clan armor, the Sakai clan armor is preferred. But I have to go into the menu every time to make those changes, and I'm doing that, a dozen times per play session. So
I would imagine it is all but guaranteed, because I remember at the time when Nate Fox was going around doing like spoiler casts and review discussions with various outlets, I know that at least from memory, 2 or 3 outlets raised him the idea of like, why aren't there loadouts that you can quick swap between? And he was like, yeah, that is a really good idea, but it's just something that we didn't think of during the main development. And by the time that we considered it and got some feedback really close to release from like reviewers before the game fully released, it was too much of an undertaking to patch in. Obviously, they did do like a rudimentary version of it after the fact, but I think that with that feedback, I would be gobsmacked if there isn't a, like some kind of button input which you can hold down and then switch with a D-pad or something between different loadouts.
Yeah. Still a beautiful game. Best Assassin's Creed game, let me tell you, is Ghost of Tsushima.
Sure.
3 years late. I don't care. 4 years late. Well, no, I beat it last. I beat it in 2023, but I didn't start the DLC. So the DLC came out in 2021, right?
Correct.
Yeah, only 3 years late. Only 4 years late. Oh, God.
It is 2025.
It is the current year.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, I also need to read Shogun now, or watch it, or both.
I would say both.
The Hobbit's first, though.
Okay.
Anyway, Sam, I keep dragging this stuff on. Sorry, buddy.
You just don't want to get to the bummer news. That's all it is.
There's no bummer news. All right? There's no bummer news. It's just Sony has canceled 2 more live service games, one from Bend and one from Bluepoint. Jason Schreier, the Bloomberg reporter who is a reporter at Bloomberg.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he said that Bluepoint was working on a God of War live service game for the past 2 years. And it was before that, it was a support studio for Ragnarok from 2020 to 2022. And a Sony spokesperson said that neither studio will be shuttered, and that, quote, Bend and Bluepoint are highly accomplished teams who are valued members of the PlayStation Studios family and are working very closely. We are working very closely with each studio to determine what are the next projects and plan to do everything we can to ensure there is minimal business impact. Jeff Grubb also shared in the Game Mess Decides podcast, these cancellations are essentially a direct result of Concord's failure. The scale of the flop has spooked Sony, and they're going around every live service product in development, and that there's a lot of friction that is likely preventing these games from seeing the light of day. Jeff Grubb also stated that these 2 titles were the only projects in active development at their respective studios. So it doesn't seem like we know a lot about what Project Bend was working on, but they're working on something. And I think the main concern now at this point is that Bluepoint is at more risk of either layoffs or closure than they were before. But Bend specifically is at very high risk, considering they haven't put out a project since 2019's Days Gone, which came out to mixed reception.
Yeah.
But I thought they were this is the thing. I thought we heard news about another project Ben was working on recently over the past year or so. I wonder if that was the live service game or if that was something different. If it was the live service game and that was their only thing, big bad. But if it wasn't,
I'm pretty confident it was
oh, man.
their only thing. Because it's not like official, but
Mhm.
all indications suggested that after Days Gone, they, famously had a sequel rejected, which I
All
think
right.
is, in hindsight, a terrible mistake,
Terrible.
considering where they are now, especially. And this is coming from someone who actually really liked Days Gone, and thought that how it ends sets up a very, very interesting sequel. Nonetheless, the rumor is from credible sources that after Days Gone 2 was rejected, they then began collaborating with Naughty Dog to work on an Uncharted project of some kind. And then that got shelved and they shifted onto this live service project. There have technically been some leaks of like screen grabs of this project, with some of the UI and menus and things like that. Looked like a sci-fi third-person shooter, or should I say a sci-fi militaristic first-person shooter, which realistically would have been a multiplayer. Obviously was a live service, but mostly focused on multiplayer. But we don't really know anything beyond that, as you say. Yeah, I mean, it's reassuring because when the news first broke, I was showing it in the Discord. I didn't catch the part where the Sony spokesperson had said to Bloomberg that neither studio would be closed down. So I went into panic mode, like exactly what you said, where Bend, I think, were done for. I was like, that's curtains for them. I guess we have to take them at their word currently that neither studio is going to be shut down. I don't fully believe it. I think they could right now be saying, like, we're not going to close you down. We're going to work out what the next projects are. But I could easily see, in a month or two's time, a statement going out saying we tried very hard with Ben's studio to figure out the next step and things just didn't coalesce. And therefore, unfortunately, we're going to have to close the studio. I can easily see that being in the future. I really hope and pray that isn't the case. But I think, I don't know, if they're starting from scratch on a new project now, and not even starting right now, but having to come up with something and then pitch it and get it greenlit and then start development, we won't see Bend this generation, which is ridiculous. And then that puts an exorbitant amount of pressure on their next project to deliver. Like, that means, in my mind, if the next Bend game, assuming we ever see one, basically has to be like a 10. And I love Bend. I just don't know that they are capable of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it does look pretty dire for them, unfortunately.
I need to play that Days Gone, Sam.
You do. It could be low down the priority list, but
High.
I low down the priority list.
Wow. The Order 1886 is more important.
I wouldn't go that far. You can get the Order in 1886 done far quicker than Days Gone, that's for sure.
Yeah, what, 4 hours? Anyway, go on.
So you could burn through that. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, like the Bend thing, I think stings less, even though I'm scared for the studio.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like, yeah, Ben's had a really turbulent past since Days Gone's release. The studio leadership has been shaken up. The live service push in general is like a thing. But I think the real gut punch is Bluepoint, to be honest. Because we've all of us on the show and just generally in the community have speculated for years about what Bluepoint's been up to since Demon's Souls. And it's like Right. So after Demon Souls, they were just helping get Ragnarok out the door, which is like, okay, not great, but like fine.
Okay, buddy,
But then to learn that they were also put on the live service push. The remake studio was put onto a live service game, which of course retrospectively explains their commentary when they kept saying we're working on original content, which is what a God of War live service would have been. It's not new IP that they were saying. We're not working on our own original thing. It's just original content, which makes sense. But I just... Does a God of War live service sound at all enticing to you, Taylor?
No. But I'm also not a multiplayer guy.
No?
It's like, I don't know, like Elden Ring, Night Ring is doing its thing, maybe. But no, let me back up. FromSoft has a strong, rich history of PvP and co-op in their games since Demon Souls.
Uh-huh.
God of War, I don't understand what you would do in a God of War live service game. Is everyone in Kratos? I assume not. So what?
Well, that's the thing. It's just,
is it like a hero shooter? Like, what's going on?
It seems like such a flawed concept. So like, I've been and the internet as a whole has just imploded with the Bluepoint news specifically of this God of War live service. Like, what the hell was Sony thinking? Trying to justify it in my head, the only two ideas I could come up with, both aren't great, is that they were just essentially going to do God of War Ascension's multiplayer mode again, where you are like demigods that pledge allegiance to a specific god and then fight it out, which is what Ascension's multiplayer was.
Interesting. I didn't know about that.
Or, I think I said this in the Discord, I could understand maybe the logic of signing off on a God of War live service if it was pitched as like a PvE game as opposed to a PvP. Whereas if you conceptualize God of War in the Helldivers vein, where you are maybe a pre-selected cast of characters. I don't think custom characters really works with God of War, but who knows? And you are fighting off hordes of Draugr and giant dragons and things like that, completing objectives in a open world zone like Helldivers does. Maybe. And you can use like some godly powers here and there. You can activate specials like in the same way you call down stratagems in Helldivers. You're summoning the Blade of Olympus, or you're channeling the power of Thor or something. Sounds stupid, but I can kind of maybe visualize something there where it almost becomes like a Muso. Where you and a couple of friends are just cleaving through massive hordes of just cannon fodder. But even then, like, Dynasty Warriors wouldn't work as a live service. So I don't know why they would think a God of War version of that would work as a live service. Yeah, it just seems like brain dead choice, to be honest. Because so Bluepoint, they've worked on God of War collections in the past, so okay,
right,
makes sense that they might roll in to some capacity as a temporary support studio for Santa Monica with Ragnarok. That kind of makes sense, but you would think you have a remake studio that has made multiple acclaimed remakes. You're wanting to do more remasters and remakes. Here's an idea, Sony. Why don't you get Bluepoint to just remake one of the old God of War games?
I mean, we've heard the rumors of the God of War Greek anthology that might be in development.
Sure.
Maybe they're working on that. I don't know. But there's probably more remasters than remakes.
Exactly. And I would imagine it's been exported to an external studio if it does exist.
What remake God of War 1, 2, 3, and the PSP games and Ascension, and God of War 4's engine.
Yeah. I mean, and I would probably recommend that they just do them individually, and then price them appropriately.
What does price them appropriately mean, Sam? It means we're going to have to buy God of War for $70.
No. I would say, like, if Bluepoint, in the same way that they do the Demon Souls, I would say that you maybe cap that. I know people aren't going to like it, but it's what a Sony would do. Probably cap that at the very, very max at 50. Play with the price range a bit, and that would mean that over the course of the saga, you are spending like $200 technically for these games. But if they are like top to bottom remakes like Demon Souls was, I can see there being reason to that. But yeah, like I don't understand. And people are misconstruing. People are saying, well, why isn't Bluepoint just like making their own IP, making their own brand new game? And that's misunderstanding how Bluepoint currently exists as a studio. Because we talked about this several months ago, but there was that slide on one of the financial reports. It might have been after the Insomniac leak or something, where they had their internal studios like segmented up into different categories, and Bluepoint was like support or partner studio. I can't remember the terminology. Bluepoint don't have like creative directors or narrative teams. They don't have anybody in the studio.
I thought they were working on their original game, or is this a live service game?
Sure.
No, it was God of War live service. So yeah, I thought they were working on an original game. That would have been God of War live service though, because it's not or does original game mean the same thing as new IP?
No.
So you think that was the project when they said they were working on an original game?
Yes. But Bluepoint isn't a big enough team to have multiple projects on the go at the same time.
Let me see. How many people work there?
So, and like Jeff Grubb said that you read out, the Bend title and the Bluepoint title were the only projects in active development at the studios.
Yeah. So Bluepoint only it says over 80 people.
Yeah.
So I assume that means between 80 and 90.
Which is like 20 more than Asobi has.
Right.
And Asobi is very much a one-game studio, which might change after Astrobot's success for sure, but like not to any reasonable extent.
Yeah, so they did Nathan Drake Collection, Shadow Colossus, Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Blade Blast Factor. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'll just reiterate my point that they don't have the kind of internal positions at Bluepoint that would enable them to conceptualize and see through a project of their own creation. They just don't have those roles in place at the studio,
right?
Which again makes sense of why they are labeled as a support and partner studio, that they partner up with another internal studio like they seemingly have done with Santa Monica to work on Ragnarok, and also collaborate on this live service, which they were doing, or they take a pre-existing game and also potentially at the same time partner with that studio that made that game to remaster or remake it. So they're relying on almost always relying on some kind of pre-existing work as at the very least a foundation. So they don't have to do any of the creative work themselves. It is just bringing the games up to a new level, which sucks. There is no positive way to spin this, I don't think, because we were all, we've been waiting for at least a couple of years, if we're being generous, to really see what the next wave of Sony first party looks like. And there is still great stuff coming. Like, it is very easy to get into sky is falling territory with this kind of news, with how badly all the live service stuff has gone for Sony outside of Helldivers. There is still great stuff coming, no doubt. Stuff we know about and stuff that we don't. But there's no denying that two of the biggest, in terms of name recognition studios, Sony, we are now not going to see anything from for another, at the very least, 2 or 3 years before they are able to announce something, let alone release something. So that's dried up the release roadmap for PlayStation first party a fair amount, which is deeply unfortunate. The only positive to take away, I would say, and I'm not trying to defend, I'm just trying to find a silver lining in a heap of dog poo-poo. It's very clear that Sony is almost in a full sprint retreat from the live service stuff. And as much as it stings as a consumer to not be able to see a product coming from these teams, we saw what happened to Firewalk. Firewalk were able to release Concord and try, and now they're gone. So it's far easier for Sony on a corporate business level to scrap the products, write them off, than release them, have them fail, be another bruise, active, permanent bruise on Sony's reputation like Concord is, and then the teams suffer. So there's no way that after this decision, Sony is going to put Bend and Bluepoint on other live service products. It's just not going to happen. If it does, I have legitimately no idea what they're doing. Like, the level of delusion at Sony, if they're like, yeah, so this live service thing with you, Bend, and this live service with you, Bluepoint, clearly not working out, but you are, Bend, you're pretty good at making open world games. We've got plenty of them, but you do cool stuff. Maybe you could go back and like do a mid-size Siphon Filter reboot, or maybe, you have experience with the Resistance IP. Maybe you could do another little smaller Resistance game. I don't know. Maybe you could do that Uncharted thing that you were pitching. But no, we're going to put you on another live service. And Bluepoint, you could remake any of the old, currently dead IP in our library. You could resurrect one of them, give them a chance of bringing back.
Alien Resurrection. What a great movie, Sam.
I mean, that's debatable,
It's such a bad movie. I haven't seen it.
Ripley did make that basketball shot, though. So,
What?
Gotta give
There's
it
a basketball shot?
Yeah.
All right, anyway.
Yeah, like Bluepoint, why don't you go do an Infamous remake? Take the first game, remake it. Or if not, why not go back and do something crazy with Killzone? Because Herman would probably like Killzone over Resistance, which hurts my heart, but still. No, Bluepoint, you're going to go and do another live service game, which is completely devoid and
Foam Stars.
It's just, so you can only hope that this is much like Naughty Dog cancelling factions to, as they said, prioritize and solely focus on single player. you would hope that these two teams are now going to be pitching and getting greenlit on single player games, which is what they should have been on from the beginning. Like the amount of resources and time wasted and money wasted for Sony chasing this live service dragon. They said they're still going to do it, but they surely have to be so much more considered now, where they aren't going to just force these teams to do live service, right? Like,
I think Sony now sees that, right? 2 years ago, they didn't.
yeah,
And now it is so much harder to make a live service game that people care about than it is to make a narrative single player game that people care about, because the live service game involves a lot more luck. So much of it is timing, and it's so hard to predict what people will like when it comes to sticking with a multiplayer game.
yeah.
You know how many Fortnite clones there have been? The only ones, the only Overwatch clone that has stuck has been Marvel Rivals, and that's been it's been 9 years since Overwatch came out in 2016.
Yeah.
I guess maybe at least there's Overwatch, Valorant, Fortnite, Marvel Rivals, Apex, all your other live service multiplayer games. I guess you say, let's call it League, Warcraft. Outside of those, Helldivers 2 is, I think, the luckiest Sony's going to get in this market.
Yeah.
With the next best chance they had was Factions, and that's gone.
Yeah.
Because that was a unique intersection of people who probably predominantly like the single player more, or retracted the game for the single player, but stay for the multiplayer. And that project is gone. So I really don't think it's a good investment.
I mean,
doing that.
it's unfortunate because you can't argue against it, because it does make sense that even if one of these games hits and hits really hard, they are so cash rich then, or far more than they were if they hadn't tried. But again, the risk that you take inherently in trying to chase that reward of infinite money, or close enough to it, if it really lands, is that you could end up wasting hundreds of millions of dollars, which they have. Like, I agree that Factions was probably their closest bet. I do think that there is a chance that the Horizon game could pan out well, like a Horizon Monster Hunter. The issue being, you can't release it this year, I don't think, because it's going to be following in the wake of Wilds. And generally speaking, depending on how persistent Wilds is, you might be kind of screwed regardless, because you're going to have what you would imagine is a very well received, very competent, well established competitor in the space. So, and I like it. Is Ghost of Yotei going to have another Legends mode? I don't know, because Legends was well received for Tsushima, and it was good. Like, it was good, but there wasn't any monetization or anything. So do they try again and just iterate on it a little bit? Do they have it as a free standalone thing like they did with Legends, but add in some microtransaction stuff? I would say probably, because I don't know that you just discard all of that work that you've done. But yeah, like, even then, is that a guaranteed thing? It could be super dope. I'd love for it to be, but I don't know how many people are pining after those kind of experiences, especially with all this bad blood now following on from, Concord, London Studio being shut down, Firewalk being shut down, these games being cancelled. And even though we didn't really see anything of them, like the Spider-Man game being cancelled, Fire Sprite working on Twisted Metal, all of these things. Like, I truly don't think we are ever going to see fair games from Haven. I don't think we're going to play it.
Oh, no, I don't think we are either.
I think it looks too generic. The reception from everybody online, not that that's a be-all and end-all, but that was the exact same as Concord, and we know how Concord went.
Right.
So, I don't know, man. Shaky times. Sony need to show something, and soon, which is handy segue, because according to a rumor from Nate the Hate, the very first State of Play of 2025 is set for February next month. So according to Nate the Hate, who, for people interested, has a relatively decent track record, he's a bit shaky, but
he predicted the Switch 2 reveal on the dot.
He did just nail the Switch 2 announcement date. He is saying that Sony is set to hold a State of Play sometime in February. That's according to somebody who asked him on Twitter. He said, do you know anything about when the next State of Play is going to happen? And he said, how does February sound? So this is very minimal. There's no information to go off of, but I made the note as the Push Square article that I linked also said that Death Stranding 2 and Ghost of Yotei would likely be guaranteed appearances at the State of Play alongside some third-party games, maybe like Baby Steps, Sword of the Sea, The Midnight Walk, maybe. But outside of that, who knows? Who knows? Because are they going to do a showcase in May, June? I said that as one of my predictions, but I'm not confident in it. But we need to hear about Wolverine at some point. We need to see some gameplay reveal of Intergalactic. We need to know. Taylor, let me tell you something.
Okay.
If at some State of Play, whether it's next month or whether it's a showcase or a Summer Games Fest or a Game Awards thing, if I see the name Housemarque pop up and it's another live service game,
Returnal's not a live service game.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying
okay.
if after Returnal, Housemarque were put on a live service game, I will commit seppuku live on No Limits. You heard it here first.
Post show only. Pay up.
Get that money.
Yeah, we'll play Sudoku.
That's not what I said, but
yeah, it is.
Sure. Or is it?
Yeah, we'll see what's next from Housemarque. Resogun 2.
I'd love that. Truly.
I wouldn't. Let's have them make a Fury 2, but it's not Fury.
What if though? What if it was a Resogun sequel, but it was more in the line of like a Star Fox?
Oh, now I'd play that. I love Star Fox 64.
Yeah. See? Now I got you.
You got me. You got me. Ace Combat.
180.
But it's cyberpunk themed.
Hell yeah. With all those pixels and voxels that they're blowing up. Hell yeah. Sign me up. High scores.
We'll see.
Woo!
You're not a real high score game kind of guy, though, Sam.
Neither am I. But
that's what I said. You're not.
Well, neither are you.
I know, Sam.
I'm glad we figured that out. We did it together.
Okay. Toph, what? What do you want?
And Taylor, I unless you have something else to say about the State of Play.
I think it's they're not going to show anything about Intergalactic, and you're lucky if you get a Wolverine gameplay reveal.
Indeed. But like not Copium or Hopium, the last two State of Plays have technically ended on a new first party reveal. The State of Play in May last year, May or June. That was when we had Astrobot revealed for the first time. and it came out in September. And then the September State of Play, we got Yoto revealed. So maybe that is the precedent now, where they aren't going to do a showcase, but at the end of each State of Play, and they do a few State of Plays a year, they have a first party reveal, or like you say, a Wolverine gameplay reveal, re-reveal thing. That would be awesome. I'd still take that. So who knows? I think if the next State of Play, whether it's next month or not, if that ends on a first party thing, then I think that is the precedent set, and that's what we can expect going forwards. Time will tell. I'll tackle this one for you as well, Taylor, primarily just because I did watch the interview. I can't imagine you did.
I saw a 2-minute clip of it earlier this morning about Shuhei Yoshida trying on PSVR.
Yes. So I haven't listed every single thing that they talked about because they were talking for like 2 hours. But I took out some of the more interesting things, contentious things maybe.
All right. This was a Kind of Funny Games exclusive interview, right?
It was. Yeah. So to caveat, people, we'd mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but Shuhei Yoshida has now officially left PlayStation. I'm going to hold in the tears.
You don't know the guy, Sam. Stop making parasocial relationships with people you don't know.
I know, but he's just an adorable dude. Have you seen him smile?
Yeah, I also saw it. I'm not going to make that comparison.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So he had as you said, Taylor, a tell-all interview with Kind of Funny. And he spoke about a number of things. I didn't write it down, but I will say he mentioned PSVR 2. And Greg Miller did ask him, like, what's up with PSVR 2? And Shuhei didn't give him an answer. He sort of said, let's move on, which says a lot. Shuhei was the guy sort of spearheading PSVR, certainly PSVR 1. And he said that, I was wrong because I thought that he made a comment back in the day when PSVR 1 came out. It was like, PSVR 1 is like the PS1 to us, where we are just laying a foundation and next iterations will be big improvements and we'll just keep learning and growing and building. And he essentially apologized on this interview saying, like, PSVR 2 didn't turn into the PS2 in the way that I envisioned. So I think that, not a surprise, but that would very clearly just suggest that VR is dead. PSVR 2 will still see support, I'm sure, to a degree, but there won't be any further iterations beyond this, which we all kind of knew was the case anyway. But on another topic, he spoke of the amount of remasters we've been getting from PlayStation. Again, a question was posed from Greg to Shuhei, and Shuhei said the following, quote, I joked about PlayStation co-CEO Herman Hulst being criticized for making too many remasters. I think the people who complain about that are maybe thinking Herman is doing that instead of doing something new. But I'm sure these remakes are made by a dedicated different team or some porting teams, especially the PC version. So I don't think he's sacrificing anything by doing remasters. He continued by saying players, quote, that if players, quote, like first parties output, the big single player games, they should support Herman doing these porting and remasters so that he can keep investing in these great new games, end quote. Taylor, we'll stop there for a split second. What are your thoughts on that? Compelling.
I'm rereading it.
Did I not read it well enough?
No, my mind was elsewhere.
No. Yeah.
So I picked up part of it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's something I need to work on where I have a question or a potential mistake at work, and then I keep thinking about it when I should just lock it up and throw it away until Monday.
Sure.
And that's what happened there. Sorry.
Cool. Sorry? I can share my thoughts if you need.
I have no issues with what Shuhei said. I think Kyle is the type of guy who gets tired of all these remasters. Frankly, I don't see an issue with it. I encourage them so long as new games are still being developed. Development times have vastly increased. Remasters are an easy time to introduce revenue to a studio and introduce games to people who never played them before and provide a current version for people who have played them but still want them available to go back to. Anytime, the older we get, there will be more and more games that we've played that the people younger than us have not, because it wasn't concurrent with when they were, probably from the ages of 10 to 16 or 10 to 18.
Yeah.
And bringing these games up to snuff now is not only a form of preservation and easy money, but I think it just makes good games easier to play for everyone. And Sony could port all their PS2 titles and I'd be all for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy it, you could, but it's available for the people who haven't played them or want them on their modern system. Yeah. And yeah, by segregating the teams, so you have a port team and a new IP team, there's no disruption in either one of them. So I have no issue with that direction. And I think the people complaining about remasters are the people who were between the ages of 30 to 40, who, let's say, generally between the ages of 25 to 40, who already played the game of interest and, see it just as a scalping move. I see it as should they be charging as much as they are for some of the games they port? Surely no. But I think the positives outweigh the negatives. You bring it up to speed, get more money for generating the new game that you're interested in. And you already played it, so it doesn't harm you that it exists again. It's not a subtractive relationship with new IP.
Yeah.
Which is how a lot of people look at it, which I don't think should be the case.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I will always favor new stuff over old stuff, no doubt. But realistically, all it is an optics problem currently, because Sony aren't talking that much about the new stuff. And you're seeing whether it's intentional or just by happenstance, a lot of the stuff that is coming out currently is the remasters and the remakes, which lends into that poor optics of that's all they're doing. And that's not the case. And, again, not to defend them, but I think that the results speak for themselves, that when Sony do put out a first party new thing, it is almost always of very, very high quality. Subjectively, you can like it or not like it, but there's no denying that realistically, more often than not, the games hit. So the results kind of speak for themselves in that regard. And I agree that there are some pricing things for some of the games that seem a little bit out of touch. But for example, the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster, I played through Zero Dawn many times and I paid £10 to get the remaster. It was essentially like a brand new game to me. And I know that is seems delusional, but to get Zero Dawn on the fidelity of Forbidden West is ridiculous. And more often than not, they are charging existing users, if you already own the games, that £10, $10 fee, which some people are like, well, give it to us for free. It's like, well, maybe if they were a Microsoft, they might be able to justify that. But PlayStation aren't Microsoft. Sony aren't Microsoft. Now, would I love it if all of these things were given away as a pro-consumer thing for free? Sure. But if it sustains the company and continues to give me those experiences, I think that it is a considerable lesser of two evils. So, again, you don't have to buy them. And that is always the case with every game that ever comes out, whether it's a remake or not. But, if you don't like it, don't support it. It wasn't made for you in the first place. Glad we're in agreement there, Taylor.
Yep. Talking to you, Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. An interesting little one.
No,
We can't escape it, Taylor. We can't escape it.
it's not. It's not real.
Greg, of course, he had the opportunity, so you got to ask. He talked about why Sony hasn't done anything with Bloodborne. And Shuhei said, quote, Miyazaki-san really, really loved Bloodborne, what he created. So I think he is interested, but he's so successful and he's so busy, so he cannot do it himself, but he doesn't want anyone else to touch it. And the PlayStation team respects his wish. That's my theory. Again, not new information. This was kind of the assumed dynamic that was going on, where whether it was an official, like legal FromSoft have a first right of refusal kind of deal, or whether it was just Sony wanting to respect Miyazaki's wishes. We thought that this is why something hadn't happened, because otherwise it just makes too much sense. But still, it doesn't make it sting any less, Taylor. The heart yearns.
It's not coming back. Accept it. Goodbye.
I mean, people immediately jumped to with the Bend and Bluepoint news of like, Sony, for the love of God, just have a conversation with Miyazaki, figure something out.
It's not happening.
And get his approval for Bluepoint to do Bloodborne.
It's not happening. I don't care if he approves it or not.
I don't think so either, because it's clear that Miyazaki cares far more about Bloodborne than he does for something like Demon Souls.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see a Bloodborne thing from Bluepoint, but I think the issue then becomes that with something that Miyazaki loves so much and would probably want to do but can't currently do given his schedule, if Bluepoint did do something with Bloodborne, they would almost by de facto make it the best version. And I don't know that Miyazaki would be super thrilled with the idea that an external team is making the best version of his most beloved
Oh my God,
game.
Get off the high horse.
I agree. I feel like that is a pretentious and egotistical thing. But the sense I get is that Miyazaki is very, very protective of Bloodborne. Protective of everything he makes, but particularly of Bloodborne. Because otherwise,
dude,
again, we would have seen something
if
like
someone
that,
wants
even if it was just a port.
Someone wants to up the textures and make the game run at 60, why would you care? It's not disrupting any creative element of the game.
That's the thing. And pretty much everybody would be perfectly fine with that. Like a Bloodborne remake would be awesome, or a remaster would be great. But just a port would be fine. Get it to 60, fine. But yeah, I too disagree with the idea that Bluepoint can do anything Bloodborne related. The only way that it does work, because Sony does technically own Bloodborne IP, the Bloodborne IP, is if Sony just decided F it and did it anyway against Miyazaki's wishes. But they would never do that, because that then completely destroys their relationship.
Because Bloodborne's dead. All right, the only way you're getting Bloodborne at 60 is if you mod your PS4. All right, let's or until PS4 emulation hits PC in the next 10 years. All right, just put it to bed, internet.
Or and again, very unlikely, if Sony backed up a truckload of money for Miyazaki and said, at some point, clear this space in your schedule to specifically do Bloodborne, and we'll fund it for you.
That's the thing. We don't know how much. We don't know what FromSoft's work. So they had Night Rain.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know how involved Miyazaki is with that, but they're working on. I don't know what FromSoft is working on. I don't know how much that space exists.
Well, I mean, they said they have several projects in development currently, but that there is undoubtedly a way that if they wanted to do it, they could say in 5-6 years time, once you've got this project out of the way. Wait,
Miyazaki's only 50? I thought he was 60. Oh wow, he has a lot more in the tank.
So we'll see.
I thought he was going to retire in the next 5 years. I don't think so.
It's certainly not off the table, but we're not going to see it anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last thing, which we'll rattle through, which was a big topic today, generally, live service. He was asked about it, and Shuhei said the following, quote, "For me, I was managing this budget, talking about when he was head of PlayStation Studios. So I was responsible for allocating money to what kinds of games to make. If the company was considering going that way in the live service push, it probably didn't make sense to stop making another God of War or single player game and put all the money into the live service games. However, what they did when I left and Herman Holst took over is the company, Sony, gave us a lot more resources. I don't think they told Herman to stop making single player games. They, Sony, said, these games are great, keep doing that, and we'll give you additional resources to work on these live service games and try it. I'm sure they knew it was risky. The chance of a game becoming successful in this hugely competitive genre would be small. However, the company, knowing that risk, gave Herman the resources and chance to try it. I think that's the way they did it. In my mind, that's great. And hopefully some games will become successful. Luckily, Helldivers 2 did so well, nobody expected that. So you can't plan a success in this industry. That's the most fun part of the business. I hope that this strategy will work out in the end. If I was in Herman's position, probably I would have tried to resist that direction. Maybe that's one of the reasons they removed me from the first party, end quote.
Wow. Wait, this is a little spicy. Hold on.
Now, to preface, as someone who listened to the interview, he did technically he did say that last sentence in a joking fashion.
Okay.
But I don't know that we can completely discount it.
So Shuhei was going the direction of Shuhei generally resisted the live service push. That's what he's stipulating, and that might have been a contributing factor as to why he was given the out.
It's a little murky. We can't quite tell whether he did actively resist it or whether they knew that Shu would resist it and therefore demoted him ahead of time and instituted someone like Herman alongside Jim Ryan, who maybe would have been
that's
more
the thing.
Willing.
Did Shuhei make the choice to leave head of PlayStation Studios, or he was removed by Sony from PlayStation Studios?
That's it, isn't it? We don't know. I was up until this point like 100% under the assumption that he willfully stepped down, that he sort of did his role, but he wanted to stay in the company. So he was technically demoted regardless, but he was put in charge of indies, which for decades he has been very, very vocal about.
Yeah. Have you heard of the expression voluntold?
Yes. Yeah.
Perhaps this is what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Potentially. And I don't know that any of this quote really gives us a definitive answer either way, but I think it does muddy the waters a little bit of maybe there was a little bit of internal friction going on. And Shu might have sensed the way the wind was blowing and suggested a different direction. And then Sony sort of asked him to step aside. Yeah, it's weird. It is good, and it's shown again in the financial slides that leaked in the Insomniac hack that Sony did dedicate more financial resources to PlayStation for this live service push. Like, that is just in the numbers. PlayStation as a division was allocated more resources. So what Shu is saying here is correct. But it still doesn't change the fact that we have heard and or seen about more of the live service stuff than we have the single player stuff. So it makes everybody feel a little bit shaky, particularly when the live service stuff is being cancelled and we still haven't heard about a lot of the single player stuff. So, yeah, not surprising that Shu would have been against it. Like, I feel like that's relatively obvious. Shu has never seemed like the multiplayer live servicey guy, but
right.
Yeah. I mean, not that he can change anything because he's outside of the company now, but I'm glad that he made the comment saying that, like, even though it's all logical stuff of like the chance of something succeeding is very small, I feel like he should be a respected enough person within the corporation that even if there's a chance that these words cross somebody's desk. I mean, PlayStation internally are probably on fire right now going, oh, Jesus Christ, what have we done? But, like,
What have we done in making all these live service games? What do you
Yes,
mean?
yes, precisely. But I think that there's a chance that maybe these words might act as a bit of a balm that like weather the storm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't just like saying part of business because that makes me seem pro-capitalist.
Exactly.
It's part of making decisions on large projects.
Yeah.
You take it a direction based on the knowledge you have at hand that you think will succeed the best, and it just doesn't pan out sometimes. So the finance, from a strictly financial perspective, that's what they did.
Yeah.
And turned out it's not working so great. Cost of doing business is eating the cost of initiatives that don't succeed.
Yeah.
And right, the main issue is if you overinvest and it doesn't succeed, then you put your company underwater. I don't think that's not the case with PlayStation, but
No.
As in the broad sense, but right, with these individual studios, that's the price to pay, unfortunately. And it wasn't their fault.
No.
It's not the studios. Well, I guess that's a bit murky, right? It's not the studio's fault 100% that a game didn't succeed. Of course, they have a significant part in it, but a lot of it's luck in the games world. Like we saw with the Shuhei interview, he said it directly. So much of figuring out what clicks with the public is enigmatic in many ways. So, yeah, but I'm selfishly glad they're going back the other direction. Because I don't really play live service stuff except for Helldivers 2 every couple months.
Yeah. I mean, it's all reassuring because this interview, to be clear, happened before the cancellation news of the two projects. So there was no questions asked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's reassuring to hear that the studios haven't been shuttered, right, for the time being, right? Touch wood. Because if it was the case where, like, you know, Concord released, collapsed, Firewalk was shuttered, and then these live service games, whether it was because of Concord's failure or not, partly or fully or whatever, if Bend and Bluepoint or one of the studios was then shut down, I think the takeaway from this whole situation would be very different. Because then I'd be thinking, like, Jesus Christ, that means Haven's done for. That means, like, I don't know. It sounds stupid to say, but you can very easily follow trains of logic of, like, well, Guerrilla have been working on this Horizon game for 7 years. So Horizon, like, Herman would protect them regardless. I know, hence why I would say it was stupid. But, like, how safe is at least that team within Guerrilla that has spent all these resources over several years, and the fact that they are doing massive amounts of QA and deciding, even though it's going to hurt them, to cancel the projects and just start from scratch, not have a subpar or underperforming product stain their record. They'd rather just cancel these things that haven't even been announced yet, and shift onto something else. As you say, hopefully more traditional. I think that is a reassuring sign, even if it hurts both the studios, the corporation's bottom line, and us as consumers in the short term. So rocky waters, but, you know, there is a lighthouse shining in the distance.
With me, lobster.
Yeah. We're going to navigate out, and there'll be plenty of juicy fish to reap on the other side.
Robert Eggers is going to greet us.
Yeah. Robert Pattinson too.
You don't like me, lobster. You don't like me, lobster.
What a film. What a film.
You don't like it. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not a reference to a film. It's a reference to an experience. All right. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week in No Limits. We're about to be drafting fantasy in 2 hours. Sam, you and I after we finish recording, we're going to talk about some specifics in the critical path.
We are. The path to success, a second year in a row.
Wouldn't it be so funny if we scheduled that, made that a post show, and then someone listened to it right before the fantasy draft?
Yeah, who'd be so stupid enough to do something like that?
Yeah, Kevin did that last year. For listeners who don't know.
Yeah.
And I usually don't listen to X Talk post show. Sorry, but like that week for some reason I just decided to anyway, and it just happened, and that was the one.
What a dummy! What a dummy!
Anyway, thank y'all so much for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, Save the Game Media, or it's Save Game Media on Twitter, but we don't use Twitter anymore. Am I right? Got him. Links are all in the description. Where can people find you, Sam?
Anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney, Heaney.
Nice. You can find me as Mr. Carter9 on PSN. That's MRCARTERNINE or TPR Taylor on Discord. TPR6868 on Xbox. I think I have a Truck Sim profile username that I'm forgetting. Anyway, have a good one. Bye-bye.